Prisoners were shackled by their arms to the ceilings of their cells. When prisoners were fitted with collars so they could be slammed headfirst into their cell walls. When prisoners were waterboarded in American-run prisons. Trained medical professionals were apparently there, helping. Not helping the prisoners, helping the other guys. We've now got the full, previously strictly confidential Red Cross report on what happened at the CIA's secret prisons. Even just reading the subheadings, the chapter titles, can make you feel like it is impossible that you are reading about your own country. Things like suffocation by water beatings, suffocation by water, beatings by use of a collar, beating and kicking, confinement in a box, prolonged nudity, sleep deprivation, use of loud music, exposure to cold, deprivation of solid food. American-run prison. In the report, the Red Cross tells the U.S. government that its entire black site prison program is against international law. They advise that the U.S. should investigate all allegations of ill treatment and take steps to punish the perpetrators. This report, of course, was never meant to see the light of day. The fact that it is not secret anymore, that you can download it right now from nybooks.com, is the other major element of this major revelation. Red Cross reports on prisons are strictly confidential. They're given only to the authorities that run that prison. That's the deal. That's part of the reason the Red Cross gets into places no one else is allowed into. The leaking of this report about CIA black site prisons suggests that someone, maybe in the Red Cross, maybe in the government, thought that it was more important that this report be read by everyone than it was that that confidentiality system be sustained. The man who obtained that report and who got permission from his source to put it all online on the New York Review of Books website and who wrote extensively about it in the Review's latest issue is journalist Mark Danner. Mr. Danner, thank you very much for joining us again tonight.
Thank you, Rachel.
The Red Cross told the New York Times, quote, "We deplore that confidential material attributed to the ICRC was made public." Are you worried that by publishing this report you may have just helped end the access the Red Cross gets to prisons?
I think it's a real problem. I think also, though, that the publication of the report is in the public interest. It describes in unprecedentedly vivid terms what was done in the black sites by American interrogators and American Central Intelligence agents. And it does so at a time when the former Vice President of the United States, Dick Cheney, is claiming that all of these activities were done legally, according to the Constitution, and that furthermore they were necessary to protect the country, and that President Obama, by stopping them, has left the country vulnerable. So I think this is very much a matter of present debate, not about what was done in the past. And I think it's very much in the public interest that Americans have a chance to read first-person accounts of exactly what was done in these prisons by Americans to detainees under their control. And they can now do that by simply looking at the report at www.nybooks.com, reading it for themselves. It's 40 pages, written in very clear language, easy to read, and I urge them to just have a look at it, read it for themselves.
Mark, the Red Cross in the report says that what medical personnel did in participating in these techniques, they describe it as a gross breach of medical ethics. Do we know if these were doctors? Do we know if they were they military medics? Were they CIA employees? Do we know?
Well, according to the Red Cross, they were doctors. These doctors appear in the accounts of the detainees. One of them is putting a clip on the finger of one detainee before he's waterboarded, so his heart rate and vital signs can be monitored. So when he is suffocated by water, in the Red Cross phrase, it can be one can keep track and make sure he isn't killed by that procedure. Another doctor is shown examining the single leg of a detainee who lost a leg in Afghanistan, who's being subjected to forced standing. His hands are manacled above his head to the ceiling. His feet are his foot, I should say, is manacled to the floor, and he's left in that position for days at a time. And a doctor appears with a tape measure to measure his remaining leg to see the degree of swelling in the leg brought about by the forced standing. So doctors appear several times in the report. We don't know their identities. We only know that they're participating in these procedures. And the Red Cross makes a judgment about whether or not this is a breach of medical ethics, and they say very affirmatively that it is.
Mark, of course, the thing that we're running up against again and again and again and again is the question of accountability. And the issue of medical personnel raises the prospect that maybe one form of accountability might be the medical profession bringing accountability on its own members for having participated in this, much in the same way that the prosecutor who brought charges against Bush administration lawyers in Spain says that is a lawyers going after lawyers prosecution in order to stand up for the integrity of their profession. Do you see any hope that that might be a way in to get some accountability here?
Well, I think there are a lot of areas where one can seek accountability. You just pointed to two, the legal and the medical professions. I think for the society as a whole, and this is what I argue in my New York Review piece, I think it's enormously important that we have a societally agreed on investigation undertaken by people who can speak with authoritative voices that will show not only what was done, but whether or not real intelligence vital to the country was gained by the use of these techniques. Because the former president and the former vice president claim that these particular procedures, which the Red Cross calls torture, unequivocally, were necessary to protecting the country. The current president believes that they were not, and that security and the country's ideals can coexist together. It seems to me absolutely vital, a vital matter of our politics and our existence as citizens, that we determine whether or not it's true, as the former Vice President Cheney says, that torture was necessary to protect the country, and that the current president, in refusing to torture, has left the country vulnerable. And I think that kind of investigation with that kind of authority is absolutely necessary to us as citizens and as Americans.
Journalist Mark Danner, also author of the book Torture and Truth, America, Abu Ghraib, and the War on Terror. Mark has done some of the most important reporting we've got on this topic. Mark, thank you very much for your time tonight. Thank you for your continued reporting on this.
Thank you, Rachel.